Five Nights at Freddy's Secret of the Mimic released almost 2 months ago, and it looks like an amazing game. The game is basically a mega prequel to Five Nights at Freddy's, since it takes place in 1979. And today we'll be taking a look at the lore and secrets in the game and connecting it to what happens in the future events of the FNAF timeline. And also, even though that FNAF's birthday was like 3 weeks ago, I still want to say happy 11th anniversary to Five Nights at Freddy's, because I still can't believe this game has been around for 11 years. Now let's go ahead and get into my video looking at some of the secrets of the Mimic. You see what I did there? Yeah? So in Murray's costume manner during 3 AM, Arnold, the player character, has to put on a springlock suit and plays the captain in a pirate puppet show that involves characters such as Foxy and Roxanne Wolf. Now we'll get into Foxy and Roxy later, but for now we're talking about springlock suits, because later on when you launch the Parachute.exe program and enter the concept Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, we can find multiple springlock suits of Fredbear, Spring Bonnie, Montgomery Gator, and Bub. So did anyone make the idea of springlock suits? Well, a lot of answers to some of the questions that I'm going to be going into in this video are found in collectible mail messages, audio logs, and executive audio from the Mr. and Miss Helpful puppets. In one of the audio messages from Miss Helpful, Fiona tells Edwin that someone almost lost their hand to a springlock failure, and Edwin fixed them to be buried even with water damage. So this is how I see it. I don't think Edwin made the idea of springlock suits, but I do think that Fast Entertainment asked Edwin to make safer springlock suits. They changed their minds on things and then declined the safer suits. Also, something that's worth mentioning is that the suits in Secret of the Mimic share a similar design to the ones in the FNAF movie, so either Steve will just really like the design, or Edwin exists in the movie universe. A lot of the animatronics that we know and love can be seen in the MCN. The animatronics being Chica, Foxy, and Mediocre Melodies, Monty, and Roxy. So the question is, did Edwin make all these characters and Henry and William stole them? Well, not really. So Murray's costume manor had a contract with Fazbear Entertainment, and under that contract, Edwin and Fiona made prototypes for the characters that they created, starting with the core band Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, and Foxy. So Freddy and Bonnie are redesigns and recolors of Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, and Chica is from Chica's Party World, which Fazbear Entertainment did own. Foxy is a tricky one, but it seems like that he was made by Edwin, and Fazbear Entertainment either bought the character or asked to share him with Freddy's. Either way, Edwin said yes, and now they got Foxy. What about the Mediocre Melodies? Well, a big part of the Fall MCN is that during the Fazbear project, a man and his buddy Stan took some character patterns for themselves to make their own machines business, Stan's Budget Tech. And we can see characters that be early versions of Happy Frog, Mr. Hippo, Pig Patch, and Orville. And we can assume that Orville was made by Stan because he is powered by a battery pack, just like all the other Mediocre Melodies. Now that's only 4 of them, so what about Ned Bear? Well, basically Stan plagiarized the design of Freddy Fazbear and made him. Now finally we have Roxy and Monty. Based off the fact that there's a Monty springlock suit, they most likely just bought Monty, and for Roxy, probably same case as Foxy. And then there's Big Top. Big Top is definitely Edwin's design, but they could probably just get away with saying that Music Man was inspired by Big Top, since the only thing that's similar between the two is head shape and multiple friggin' arms. I'd say one thing they without a doubt stole is the fantasy and fun line, because in the lyrics to the Welcome Show Fanfare of the Forgotten Ones, did you hear that? Here fantasy means fun is part of them. So yeah, they just stole that from MCN and made it part of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. So we're going to talk more about the Murray family later on, but for now, we're going to talk about Fiona Murray. She was Edwin's wife that he met whenever he was looking for a voice actress. In an audio log, Fiona tells Edwin that she has to leave for a few days to help the installation crew working at Fall Fest. However, something happens at Fall Fest that leads to Fiona, unfortunately, passing away. Now, we don't know what this is, but it's highly hinted at and believed that it was a fire. And Hope wanted to see Fest on fire, not only via the Fazer blast when the explosion happens, but also on the Cinder Carousel. These could have been foreshadowing to how Fiona died in the Fall Fest fire. So, Fazbear Entertainment was associated with fires way before Fazbear's Fright. Life after Fiona's death was hard for Edwin and David. Edwin even went as far as to say that their lives were ruined because of this. But this tragedy led to the creation of the mimic endoskeleton in the program M1. These assets from Fiona voice recordings to make M1 mimic Fiona. It seemed to make Edwin's life better for a while since it seemed like he has family back. But unfortunately, David died whenever his ball rolled out into the road. And Edwin had to Edwin to make another endoskeleton with another program. And Edwin did. He did make the M2 program, but he took the M1 program and put it in a supercomputer called F10N4, or Fiona. So how did this supercomputer become MXCS? Well, something we can see in the mail logs is that M1 was trying to make Edwin make a cradle to keep M2 safe. And eventually the supercomputer was taken by Fazbear Entertainment, so I believe that M1 was removed from the computer, and eventually the cradle was made and they changed the name to Mixus. As for M1, there's a theory that M1 was one of the circuits put in the Fazbear Virtual Experience and became Glitch Trap, which means that as of now, M1 is gone since Glitch Trap is gone. Hey guys, Future Me here. So after I had everything done, I actually thought more about the M1 as Glitch Trap theory, and I realized a lot of ropes don't really tie together with that theory, because the fact that M1 wants to make a cradle to neutralize the Mimic shows that M1 wants to keep people safe from M2. Plus, why would M1 want to mimic Afton like how Glitch Trap does? The theory is interesting, but it doesn't work. Meaning that we're back to where we were. M2, the Mimic, is still Glitch Trap. Or was, since Glitch Trap virus has been destroyed. So what about M1? Well, I've heard the theory that the Cradle is part of M1, which means that MXCS is M1. Which would still mean M1 is gone, because Mixus has been shut down. Tiger Rock is one of the two suits in the game that are not the Mimic in a suit. The other we'll get into later, but for now, we gotta talk about Tiger Rock. The first time he's seen is in the television studio, and then he's seen the admin wing. And after collecting the Mimic schematics, Arnold goes to the lower basement, and we see him in the dark. Through this section, Tiger Rock teleports through the dark, and makes Arnold hallucinate seeing him. And the only way not to get killed by it seems to be by staying in the light, I think. The white tiger suit here is not the Mimic, but is most likely David Murray, or David's ghost. Because David is the most associated with Tiger Rock, and during this scene, we can hear David laughing, crying, and sometimes even talking. So I'm really willing to believe that a Tiger Rock suit actually doesn't even exist, and it's really just David's ghost. But David haunting Arnold begs the question of, why him? Well, I have a theory. What if Arnold is why David died? Arnold mentions that he works overnight shifts often while talking to dispatch. So it's possible that on the way back from a shift, Arnold could have fallen asleep at the wheel and accidentally hit David. Or maybe David isn't trying to attack Arnold, but is instead just looking for a new playmate, which would make his jump scare a lot darker because it would mean that Arnold dies from a heart attack just by seeing it. The other two suit characters that are not the Mimic is Sleepy Moon. So Sleepy Moon is a giant moon head with 2 arms and 2 legs on him. After getting executive access, if you go back to the lobby, you can get to the retail showroom. And upon opening a code-activated door, the elevator will take Arnold down to basement 1, where he meets Sleepy Moon, another character who's kind of just aimlessly walking through the dark while singing a lullaby.
Lullaby and good night with roses bedlight.
And we know that Sleepy Moon is not the Mimic because when the Mimic is talking, there can be a distorted sound at the end, which would mean that the Mimic will somehow control Big Top. How? So who is Sleepy Moon? The picture gets painted for us is that an employee got locked out there because Edwin shut the elevator down. He died and possessed the suit. And that's the most likely scenario. But there is another theory that Edwin could possess Sleepy Moon, because in the Moon.exe game, one of the lines that is said by the Moon when caught is, "I'm too busy, back to bed." And we know that Edwin wasn't exactly the most present parent. Hell, he misses David's 2nd birthday. And after M2 blows up Edwin's office and breaks his legs, he mimics him by saying,
"Daddy's busy, buddy. Why don't you go outside and play?"
So it seems like the moon is supposed to represent Edwin. Now, I do think that the latter is possible, but I think it's most likely the former. Secret of the Mimic has a total of 3 endings: Clock Out, Unfinished Business, and Storytime. Now we know that somehow Faz Entertainment got their hands on the Mimic, so we know that Clock Out cannot be the canon ending, because in that ending the Mimic captures Arnold, puts him in the prototype Freddy suit under MCM. So that narrows it down to these 2 endings. In the Unfinished Business ending, the Mimic makes Arnold's truck crash and it lights on fire. And the reason why it lights on fire, in case you're curious, is because there is a portable heater in it, because the truck, I guess it doesn't have a heater. And whenever the truck crashed, it caught on fire, and the propane tanks probably mean it could possibly blow up. So it means that when the truck crashed, Arnold probably died in a fire. But if he did somehow survive, he probably would have gotten fired and sued by Faz Entertainment for lost company property until they find Mimic in the forest. And the Storytime ending is gotten through New Game Plus. Arnold plays the Moon.exe game and is given the glitch permission on the Day Diver, and he finds David's room in the Murray household and plays a story on the pedestal that makes the Mimic harmless. So which of these endings is canon? Well, I'm still kinda on the fence, but I'm leaning toward the canon ending being the Storytime ending. And there's a lot of theories that would line up well, but the one that makes the most sense to me is that Arnold brought the Mimic to Faz Entertainment, and then the Mimic witnessed William Afton's murders, which reawakened its homicidal tendencies. It also seems like Fazbear Entertainment sent a team to the costume ender to take anything else that may be theirs. One thing that they took was the supercomputer, which explains why we see the supercomputer being taken in a truck in the Help 1 and 2 ending. As for MXCS, we know that Vanessa and Gregory had something to do with its creation. So, when they found out about the Mimic, they must have found a plan to make the cradle, and they did, which Cassie deactivated. But if the unfinished business ending is canon, then here's how I see it going. After M2 crashed the truck and went out to a forest, it either eventually ended up at Fredbear's family diner, or found it in the woods and found their own way to neutralize the Mimic. And if Arnold did survive, they probably would have stopped suing him. And that's it for my Secret of the Mimic video. Overall thoughts about it, I think Steel did amazing with it, and I'm excited for whatever's next for FNAF. Thank you for watching, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you all on Flipside. And happy 11th Five Nights at Freddy's.